I see things. You laugh at an old man. There's them that laughs and knows better.
Seen the TV cameras yet?
That's what I'm getting right now is these weird chills.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and from where
Watch
I
out.
sit, there just ain't enough damn dogs.
Voice is coming from.
He's watching you, friend. I guarantee you that.
Dude, I feel. What was that?
Throw them into darkness for a few hours and then sit back and watch them.
Drug addiction, alcoholism, sadism, bestiality.
We may ask what is real.
Murder, vampire.
Anything beyond that is dangerous.
Cannibalism.
He's a liar.
Dimension.
The demon is a liar.
Sexual
He would like to confuse us.
They pick the most dangerous enemy they can find,
The attack is psychological,
and it's themselves.
powerful. So don't listen. Remember
If it
that.
had ended,
Do not
we
listen.
would not be here.
All we need do is sit back and watch.
That's right. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and from where I sit, there just ain't enough damn dogs.
From where I sit, there just ain't enough damn dogs. Dog eat dog world. And from where I sit, there just ain't enough damn dogs. Dog world. And from where I sit, there just ain't enough damn dogs.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the NY Patriot Show. Today, I got a Freaky Fridays going on, another live Freaky Fridays, and I'm very happy to have back, for one, I have my co-host, the amazing Teresa.
Hey, how much? How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on. And today we have a returning guest. I've had her on for Roberta. I've had her on for Nixium, and damn, I forgot what the original one was. But the guy upstate, the guy
Larry Ray.
Yes, that was the other one. I have Roberta Glass on. Amazing, always brings like amazing information. You are a court reporter as well, right? Just want to make sure I get the terminology correct.
I'm not a court reporter. No.
But you do. You go to them and like you actually go to like the court hearings and do all
Yes,
that.
I report for. I'm one of the few true crime podcasters who actually go to court and report on court cases from the courtroom. So. I covered the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, the Larry Ray trial.
Nexium,
thank you. The Nexium from the early hearings on to Keith Ranieri's trial. Yes, thank you.
Nice. And today we're going to have you on for, I guess, kind of going back. It seems not that, I guess, like I said before, it seems to be kind of becoming a popular thing to talk about again. But I've always found it interesting, and I haven't really covered it. It was kind of the whole West Memphis 3 and Damien Echols situation. I will say for myself, when I first came across it, I was watching Paradise Lost. It was pretty compelling, and started to realize I think it kind of had like a biased outlook on it. And just those parts, like I was telling you prior, even the stuff with the stepfather in the woods, lighting shit on fire, getting all hysterical, his dentures almost basically popping out of his mouth. I started wondering, is this almost like reality TV to an extent? And it just seemed very one-sided, and I just really wasn't buying it. And then eventually I came across William Ramsey's stuff with you and started listening to that, and I was just like, yeah, I think this is bunch of bullshit, and I think there's a little bit more behind it. And at the time when I first heard about this, I was a practicing magician, so like, oh, Damien Echols, like, he's one of my people. You're throwing him up on the cross. And eventually I had to take a step back and was actually like, maybe I should look at things for how they are and get my feelings out of the mix, and I won't be so biased. And the case started to seem a little different to me. So I'm very happy to have you on, so you can maybe cover a few topics or a few of the things that I guess kind of almost like the lies of Damien Echols. I hate to put it that way, but it was kind of like, I feel like what's been presented to us and what's been said in the courtroom are two different things, and I assume that you might have a little bit more knowing on that than I would.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought up William Ramsey, because his book, he was really one of the first people out there to bring the truth to the American public in his book. And he really faced a lot of backlash. And I will tell you that these Paradise Lost movies, and then there's 4 documentaries for the West Memphis 3. So there's 3 done by Berlinger and Sinofsky, Sinofsky's no longer with us. And then there's a 4th directed by Amy Berg. So I don't know how many other convicted killers have 4 documentaries. And the first is a little bit more even-handed. It's still biased. We still know from Berlinger that he said that when he looked at them, he knew that they were innocent. He looked at Baldwin's slight stature and he thought he couldn't have committed a crime. And as we know, if anybody who's followed true crime, looks are very deceiving. Can we Ted Bundy, anyone?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, even
Scott
Dahmer.
Peterson, anyone?
None of them were huge people.
Paul Bernardo. I'll throw in for Teresa and Carla Homolka for
yes.
the
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Barbie, the Ken and Barbie killers. So
yeah.
So we know that they decided they were going to make an advocacy piece. So by the first documentary covers the trial and covers everything around. They have 2 trials. So there's Miss Kelly's trial and Baldwin and Echols trial. They have 2 different trials. And they kind of follow that. But by the second documentary, there's a demand for it, but there's not much going on. They're just all sitting in prison. What are you going to do? And they haven't found many new suspects. So the first suspect was John Mark Byers. Then by the 4th film, they had changed suspects. So they changed to another grieving stepfather. And I think that it's very interesting that they only pick grieving stepfathers to blame this murder on, the murder that they eventually pled guilty to via an Alford plea, which is legally a guilty plea. So they're legally convicted, essentially paroled child killers. It's so crazy that they're treated with like Echols is treated with the kind of reverence. He's walking the red carpet with Johnny Depp that he is. He's treated like a celebrity in our culture and revered. And it's like all you have to do is say the magic word, which is innocence, and that changes everything. Like if Johnny Depp had walked the red carpet with Harvey Weinstein, say, had he gotten out, had his conviction somehow had he paroled out of his conviction for sexual harassment and sexual predation, he would have been stoned all through Hollywood. But for killers, all you say is innocent. And what? I didn't know you said the magic word innocence. Well, that changes everything. A guy who killed 3 8-year-old kids. Oh, well, he might be innocent. Since you said the magic word, he might be innocent. So it's a wild thing. And yes, he's a very good liar. I was totally fooled by those Paradise Lost movies. And the lies, I said, we could be here. This could be like a marathon podcast if we went through all the lies. So.
Oh, wow.
You know what? It was funny how you mentioned the thing with the stepfathers. Because I think like in that show, if I remember correctly, they started eventually pointing at, I forgot the dude's name, the tall guy, you mentioned his name before. They kind of started insinuating or wondering if it was him. And then it seemed like after that, his opinion of Damien Echols even being the murderer has changed. So it's like, oh, now you're pointing the finger at me. It wasn't me, and I don't even think he did it. We got to look somewhere else. And then they go on to another stepfather. I was just like, what's going on here?
I really highly recommend a documentary called A Murder in the Park, which is about Anthony Porter, who was on death row in Chicago, and a bunch of Medill Innocence Project students who reinvestigated his murder of 2 people in a park. And so many things were wrong. The park had been redone. Witnesses had been offered things to retract, to change their story, to accuse different people. And they got this guy off of death row with serious innocence fraud. But you can see what's going on in that film behind the scenes. They're offered book deals, the book money that will come. Once we release An Innocent Man, that's going to make book money and TV movie money. So there's so much money in what I call innocence fraud so we don't know why John Mark Byers changed his story. He said John Douglas the profiler. This is a guy who worked for the FBI, left the FBI, and then kind of does these independent reinvestigations. And he said that the West Memphis Three had never been in trouble before. So he starts his profile off on something totally false. Echols had been in trouble multiple times. Baldwin, Miss Kelly, all of them have been in trouble with the law. So it's like,
You know what I find
what are we
funny?
talking about here?
When people get like, oh, they've never been in trouble with the law before. No, just up until now, they haven't gotten caught, possibly. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know, but he had
Echols
talks about his juvenile parole officer, and he tells Piers Morgan, I think, that he's never been in trouble with the law. And then there's another interview with him where he's talking about his driver, that's his last name, Driver, the juvenile officer who gave him such a hard time because Driver had his own conspiracy going on that he was covering up. I mean, it's like ridiculous. But how can you never get in trouble with the law and also have a probation officer or a juvenile probation officer? How is that possible? It's not. I mean, all of them were in trouble. I mean, that's just a fact. But it gets away with a myth. They've created a myth, and they're really trying to cement this myth now because they're trying for this DNA testing. Which they haven't handed over the DNA testing from 2011, but they're gonna ask for more DNA testing after their own defense team hasn't handed over the DNA testing that they did. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
Instead, they chose to plead guilty. Wonder what happened there.
Yeah, I had even wondered if like the whole, because wasn't Echols kind of like, oh, I don't want to sign it, blah blah blah, and then he's like, oh well. It was kind of like I was kind of screwing over the other two people if I didn't. I wonder if was that like
that was Baldwin who said that because he really has the best case. He didn't give incriminating statements. He wouldn't take a lie detector. He didn't fail a lie detector test because he, like the other two, because he didn't take one. So was in the best position. He's the one who resisted taking the Alford plea. And so when they do, I really encourage people to watch the press conference. So when they came out and announced that they were making this deal with the state with an Alford plea, which is legally a guilty plea, but you can still maintain your innocence. So you're admitting that the state had enough evidence to convict you, but you're still maintaining your innocence. But legally, it's a guilty plea. So where was I? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the other one who didn't want to sign.
Oh, Baldwin. So when thank you. So when Baldwin's announcing at this and saying, I didn't want to take the plea. And he said, but I did it for Echols because I knew Echols. And then so Echols sort of piped up. Yeah, I wasn't going to make it. I wasn't going to live to see a new trial because he's complaining about bad teeth and bad eyesight. That's you're going to die from bad teeth and bad eyesight. Are those now fatal illnesses? But Echols never gets asked any question that's slightly critical. I would love for someone to ask Echols, what were you exactly dying from in prison that you needed this Alford plea signed right away, that it couldn't wait, that you couldn't prove your innocence in a trial? Because the fact is that they had the best experts, the best everything. They had $10 to $20 million was spent on releasing the West Memphis Three. And the best they could come up with was a guilty plea. That was the best option for them.
I had actually wondered if some of his medical issues was him still fucking with magic in jail, to be totally honest with you.
Well, he did. He says he got out because of magic. That's how I got out. I mean, this is really William Ramsey's and probably maybe your expertise more than mine. But I think it's very interesting that he doesn't say, well, I got out because the case was so weak. I got out because, of course, finally the state saw that I was innocent. No, he says, I got out because of magic.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't deny doing it still while he was in prison.
Oh, yeah. He's drinking moon water with his wife and all sorts of weird stuff. Yeah.
One question real quick from somebody in the chat. Did if you happen to know who this is, I don't even know who this is. Did the staircase guy do the same thing with the Alfred plea? I don't know if that happened.
Yes, Michael Peterson also took an Alfred plea. And if you see Kathleen Peterson's sister, Candace Zamperini, gives a speech that is amazing at that Alfred plea hearing. It's incredible. She just rips everyone a new one. She goes, Alfred, she goes, Alfred Schmalford, guilt. It's a great speech.
Something I had wanted to ask you, maybe, and I assume maybe you would know better than me. Was there like stuff like, because we see stuff from court, you see stuff in like Paradise Lost in the documentaries. They show like little clippets of like, I guess, Damien defending himself in court. But like, I don't feel like we got to see the stuff that probably was damaging to his case. You know, I feel like we don't see much of that in the documentaries. Was there things that like, in court that,
Well, his alibis got totally destroyed. That was pretty important. That his mother and it was offering, his mother's friends were offering a false alibi, and that got just ripped apart on the stand. Any of his alibis got just totally destroyed. That the Hollingsworth family saw he and his girlfriend Dominique Tier walking covered in mud right near the scene that night. Now, of course, she's changed her story, but I think that the public should look at recantations the same way that the court looks at them with suspicion. Why are people changing their story so many years later? But okay. God, what else? I mean, there's some of the things you can't see in the film, which is that he was caught in jail writing in a magical alphabet. And he was writing his child's name and his name and Jason's name in this witch's alphabet.
I was probably,
and he said, and up until then he said, I'm into Wicca. I just know who Aleister Crowley is. I haven't read much by him. And then here he is writing Aleister Crowley's name and along with Jason's name and his own name and his son's name in this witch language. If it's not important, why are you lying about it? To me, that's why I think that the occult things have an influence in this case, because why else would you lie about it on the stand?
Yeah.
If it's not important, why would you lie about it?
Yeah, I know. I remember him, them even bringing up the fact of like him even writing like Crowley's name and like stuff inside his books, and he plays it off as like he had. I just know who he is. That's it. Mm-hmm. And I do think I think he's, from what I got out of it, I think he is into Enochian magic, and that does have its own language. So I'm assuming.
What is Enochian magic?
To me, that's a lot more serious magic. You're supposed to have a tablet, and it's a 4 by, it's like 4 different squares, and each one is like for the element. But then there's like, there could be water of fire, air of fire, earth of fire, and each one like you're tapping into supposedly like a different angel or entity, or you're going somewhere else. I think with that tablet, they suggest it to be made out of beeswax too. Is weird. Did
you have any success when you were practicing this stuff? Did you have any kind of, you felt like you got any kind of magical influence in life? Do you think it had? What I'm asking is, as a naturally skeptical person, is there any kind of evil power to this thing, or did you experience any kind of results with your magical practice?
I experienced enough results to where it stopped me from doing it, because I got a little scared, or was just like, in my opinion, the more you keep messing with it, and if you actually start like having like real magical experiences, I think it can get addicting, and it also can get very you can start becoming a very selfish, self-centered person with it. I have had some experiences where it was nothing like I was trying to obtain anything of material value, and just had experiences that, I don't think I was here. I went somewhere else and experienced something. Those were beautiful, and I had, great inspiration after the fact, but I could see how that can that could easily change a person as well. And it's like you start walking a fine line of where I could start using this to manipulate people and to, get what I want instead of, for a good reason. And I didn't want to take that chance in dabbling in it. So I just stopped. I don't know. There was just a few times where it was just different than normal. It was really out there. And I was like, this shit's real. And I don't know if I'm the person to keep messing with it like this.
Yeah. That's one thing I have noticed is that people, I haven't known anyone who improves upon studying magic.
Yeah, I think it can deteriorate.
It really does foster a kind of narcissism.
Oh,
At minimum. Right?
I agree.
So it's really funny what I was talking about to William Ramsey about Damien Echols. They had him in, it was in the juvenile mental health facility. And he says he was in there because he was a depressed kid, and he may have been depressed, but what he was doing was much more serious, lighting fires, beating a Great Dane to death. And that is Joe Bartouche, who was Baldwin's uncle, who gave that statement. He said, I watched Damien Echols beat up and kill a Great Dane.
How old was he when he did that, Roberta?
I believe, I want to say in his late teens, 16, 17, 18. And
I was just curious if because he wrote a biography after, right?
Yes, he wrote one that was self-published, Almost Home. Margaret Cho helped him publish that. And then when he got out, he had I felt it was ghost written, and I don't mean that magically.
Yeah.
I mean, in the more normal sense of the word.
In the physical sense, yeah.
Right. And there's so many lies in that book. For one, he says, and what I'm talking about, I was talking about his selfishness, I think. Yeah, or his problems. And so he's beating a dog to death. He's starting fires. His own parents are afraid that he's going to hurt the kids in the home. I mean, he's just very, very frightening kid. He's drinking people's blood. He's walking around in this trench coat in all sorts of weather in Arkansas, heat, dark trench coat, and he's hanging around he's very stalking young girls, children, keeping a briefcase, possibly. Other people said he kept a briefcase full of pictures of kids why, I don't know.
Oh,
Jason Baldwin had evil on his knuckles. So did Echols, had matching evil tattoo on every finger of their knuckles. So on the left hand, of course. So I
find interesting real quick. You mentioned that he killed a dog, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this could be a stretch, but like even Crowley in one of his books, I mean, he goes on about how he killed his cat 9 times to see if it had 9 lives. And now telling me this dude killed a dog.
Yeah. And I mean, do you think that Margaret Cho, if he killed the dog in front of Margaret Cho, do you think she would still be able to support her? And I was talking to someone who helped put that book together. And she was saying, I don't think Mark Cho or any of these celebrity supporters, they just feel that he's innocent. So he is. They didn't do any research. It's like you think they would protect their good name and do like maybe a tiny little bit of research into the case before they supported a convicted child killer. But
unless the celebrities are into the same shit he's into.
Yeah.
Could
that's what makes me feel
especially
so
Johnny
weird.
Depp.
Yeah, like so weird about the whole thing is all the Hollywood support behind him. Like, where does that come from? And like, why? Why him?
Why that case? Why that case? I mean, it's just as a ridiculous case as any other case.
Totally. And it just makes me think, like, are they into like some sort of like same club, same coven, like whatever it is, right? And I just wonder too, like, how old was he when he got into like studying magic? Because it sounds like a lot of the things he was doing, or even like the murder of the 8-year-olds in general, to me it seems like ritualistic.
Well, after he got out, believe he wrote a piece in Rolling Stone. I may be wrong about that. Please forgive me. But where he's talking about how he was crucified and convicted for his knowledge and love of magic, and that he knew everything about Crowley since he was, I think, 12 or 13 years old. He says in that.
Well,
So,
that explains a lot.
yeah. So he was lying on the stand when he said, "Oh, Crowley. I don't know Crowley. I've heard of him, but I haven't read anything by him." He said he'd read everything, knew everything about it. And you can see his library. So they didn't pay for his storage, so he put his book, all his books into storage, and you can see that it's all about magic. All the books are magical books, satanic books, and I think there's maybe a few. What do you call it? Graphic novels, but for the most part, it's all magic. I mean, it's like this huge, immense library of magical books.
You know what? Yeah, I even think that, like what you were saying before, even some of the people trying to stick up for his innocence are questionable. And doesn't he even have like doesn't him and Johnny Depp share like the same tattoo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's called Windover. It's a I want to say Chinese symbol, or I Ching, from the I Ching, means wind over water. I don't know. You have to ask William Ramsey more about what it means, but yeah, they do. Or maybe you know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I have to. I'm almost positive I've seen it myself. I just don't remember exactly what it was. You know, and I thought was interesting too, because I guess just being involved in like kind of magic and on Facebook, being in groups and stuff, you come across like more witches, I guess, than ceremonial magicians. But I ended up I didn't even realize, I think, until I brought up Paradise Lost to the person. I was actually friends with somebody on Facebook. I never physically met them, but would speak to them on Facebook and Instagram. This is years ago. That was actually in Paradise Lost.
Oh, no way. Doing what?
And she was an actual witch too at the time.
Wow.
So it makes me wonder, how many of those people were into that shit that were trying to get him out just because, he's into magic and must be innocent.
Is that when they go to the Wicca? Was she in that Wicca circle where they're?
She's into.
She's going. I'm going to give my hard-earned money to these child killers because.
She offered to send me a free book of one of his books autographed, and I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks."
It's okay.
It's just no.
Yeah, his handwriting's very creative. I just find his artwork came out when he first came out of prison. He was selling his artwork. He was selling X's. He would tattoo an X on his followers for $100, something crazy like that.
What?
And his artwork was really creepy. One of them was called Nobody Came, and there's looks like a child screaming, and I was like, "Are you?" Very odd, very, very dark and odd and creepy. I couldn't imagine anybody who wanted to buy that. I was like, who's buying this stuff? But
telling you, they're part of the same squad. That's why.
Murderpedia, right? Yeah, or people who were fellow travelers. Yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah, or just even how he's revered in Hollywood. It just makes me think that they're all part of the same crew. That's why they protect him almost and revere him.
Have you seen the music video that's dedicated to him?
No. What song is it?
It is amazing. I wish we could. It's called "The Good Has Won," and it has Damien Echols in the video, patting dogs. I'm like, oh, this is better than him beating this dog to death.
Oh,
in
wow.
New York, it's him walking around New York, patting dogs, and this sort of indie, young indie, 20-something girls singing "The Good Is Won." I really think I need to have you on my channel. We have to have a group watching of it because it's unreal. I think of all the things that came out about the West Memphis 3 tributes and music albums to get them out and everything. This was absolutely the most off the wall crazy. I was like, this guy killed 3 kids and pled guilty to killing 3 kids, right? You know that, right? You know at least the basic facts.
Yeah. I think that this dog thing is really interesting me now because now you said he did it again. I was even covering I'm going to record it soon. I was covering Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger. I think there's like tons of occult symbolism in those. And I did notice watching the first Halloween again, there was even a part in the show where they mentioned that Michael Myers, when they went back to his house, he must have killed a dog. There was a dead dog in the house. A lot of times occultists will do things where, they look at like this world as a reflection of another world. And sometimes you can use things or take pictures of something that if you were to use it or think of it backwards, that's the reflection, it makes more sense. So like just recently I had seen a video of Elon Musk has like this missile thing set up where he looks like a goat with / sphinx sitting on top of it. And then on the trailer, some truck was pulling this thing down the road. Now there's a dog staring at him with electric bolts on the side. Well, if you think of like as above, so below, if you take a perfect example, do you ever see those pictures where it could be a lake and you'll see like the trees and everything, and then you see the opposite on the bottom? It's like a reflection of what was there. That's exactly what they're trying to show. So now that dog is technically God if you were to reflect it backwards. So now him like, going around, petting the dogs, killing a dog. Even in the Abramelin ritual, supposedly that you'll hear a hellhound barking, at your door in the Abramelin ritual. So
it's interesting.
The whole thing with this guy and this dog stuff, like, is that just occult symbolism in itself?
Could be. I don't know. It's very. That video is through the roof crazy, but I think what you're saying is very interesting, and that could have been on his mind when he's doing it. But it's like it's literally a music video talking about the release of a twice convicted triple child killer.
Yeah, like why would you?
I mean, it's like Ted Bundy. Everything's all great since Ted Bundy is back with us in society. I mean, it's sort of like the similar thing. So outrageous, but
I even had someone just comment now, even the X tattoo, I was going to say, in my opinion, that could be a cult in itself. Like I know the bottom sphere on the Tree of Life, which almost all ceremonial magic is based off of, that sphere is represented by an X. That's like representing your here on Earth.
Well, what I wanted to say is that his real name isn't Damien. He took that name. It's probably
I was just going to say something about that.
His real name is Michael Hutchinson. Mm-hmm. So he most likely took that name from Damien and the Omen, and his trajectory. He says, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be known as the West Memphis 3 boogeyman. But what he became famous for is much more disturbing.
I was just saying how Michael Myers killed a dog. Michael Hutchinson.
Right. I know. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So he changed. I just looking it up quick because he changed his name at 13 years old. And if it's true what he said in like the Rolling Stone article that he got into Crowley at like 12 or 13, that would make sense that he wanted to change his name.
On a magical name. You can give yourself
a magical name. Yes. And then also too, his parents got divorced when he was 8, and he killed 3 8-year-olds in 1993.
And my understanding
93 being very thalamic.
Right.
Indeed,
Crowley said that killing 8-year-olds will give you the most magical,
the most prized sacrifice.
Right.
When it came to blood, I think he even mentions it for the cakes of light. There is, from my experience going to the OTO, there will be menstrual blood cooked into it, but he does suggest baby's blood would be the best. He does say that. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Right.
You said about Echols that I forgot what I was going to ask now. Damn it. Oh, so he changed his I was going to say, even in the OTO, when you get, I don't know if it's baptized or confirmed, if you take it, you can change your name too. Like it's not like legally binding, but
confirmed probably.
They will address you at a different name if you want to take on that magical name while you're there. So it's all very.
It would be around that age as well. Confirmation and Catholicism is at 13.
So, do you know if there's any significance in the water? So these 3 boys were tied up and put in water, and to me, it seems like if we're looking at I don't know anything about magic, but it would be like some kind of, so from birth, you come from,
Water.
obviously like the womb and water, right, out. And this is like the opposite of that. You're going into death, into like the womb of death, into the water. I don't know. Is there any kind of magical significance to that? The fact that they were tied up and thrown into, I'm talking about
water.
Michael Moore, Christopher Byers.
I think with the whole water thing, even when it comes down to the smiley face killers, I think the water might be used. Just my opinion, a part of magic, that I think you will at some point like kind of separate your soul from your body and you'll go somewhere else. And the abyss is always symbolized as water.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when these people that are dead are tossed in water, it's kind of almost like a representation to me, is like I sent them back to the abyss. I sent them back to the spirit world.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, and even a lot of celebrities like die in bathtubs or like lakes, and and even like with the whole X thing, isn't that like the Osiris rising like symbol or something, when like Crowley was photographed like that?
Yeah, and
his
the
hands.
LDX ritual, you will do a crossing like this, and rise of the sign of Osiris rising.
Yeah, Osiris rising, and even like Madonna goes by Madam X.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a lot of X's going on. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk's new app that's going to come out, the Everything app, is called X. So it's interesting.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any other, besides his alibis, was there anything else that you know of that kind of got tore apart in court? And like we didn't seem to hear about it?
Tore apart in court. Oh, God. His alibis, he confessed to softball girls. He said that, so there was these young girls. He went to a softball, at a softball game, and they were sitting there. And he said, "Oh yeah, I killed those 3 8-year-old boys, and I'm going to kill two more before I turn myself in." I have them. I think he said I had them picked out. So they testified. The softball girls. They never recanted. All the West Memphis 3 people say they recanted. They just make up these things. Like they took it back, so it never happened. Like we just got rid of that evidence. What are you talking about? But I mean, all 3 of them, it's confessed. And Jesse Miskelly has confessed multiple times, 3 recorded times post conviction. 2 recorded times post conviction. And so I don't know. It's just like, so when he said that they were lying, that he never did it. And then after he got convicted, he gives interviews saying, "Oh yeah, I did say that. They weren't lying. It was a joke. I did say that. It was a joke." So it's like sometimes those things, obviously probably the jury thought he was lying, but it really got confirmed years later when he's in prison and he's saying, "Yeah, I said that." Come on.
And now I find this, he said that he was going to kill 2 more and then turn himself in.
Yeah.
Damn.
He wanted to be, I believe, a famous celebrity killer, and that's what he's become. He's famous for killing 3 8-year-old boys. Now, he can say he's famous for being innocent. I mean, maybe that's what the majority of the public think, but the facts are he would not be famous had he not been convicted of murdering these 3 8-year-old boys in West Memphis, Arkansas in 1993.
Gotcha.
I wonder even too, like, how things kind of went in his favor and then eventually like got out of prison and stuff. It almost seems like it was like protected by like a power to me, performing all the magic stuff.
There was no reason to get them out. They did this kind of legal sleight of hand where they said, "Oh, we have this new exonerating DNA evidence and we're going to get a new trial." But instead of getting a new trial, they pled guilty.
Yeah, because maybe they're afraid of the DNA evidence coming out.
I think so. I mean, I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's either one of two things. Either it's totally not helpful either way, which often DNA isn't. But
Right.
even if it were not helpful, I think that they would release that to the public and to the other side.
I
The
felt
other
like
side is that they've never released it. They asked for an Alford plea, and you can see them at that conference. They have all the lawyers, like a massive amount of lawyers standing behind them, and they're just finessing it, saying they're really innocent. This was our best hope for getting him out. We just didn't have the time to prove it in court. I know, because it really looks bad that the only way that they're getting them out is by saying that they're guilty one more time. It's one more. They're admitting guilt right there. So they're finessing it and really like pushing it, and it's like it's really like a magic show that they're putting on for the public.
That's something I had thought too with that whole situation. I felt like up until they took the Alford plea, I feel like that they were trying to prove innocence, and maybe even like, I think in a way of like showing how somebody else could have possibly have done it, or like show other possible suspects. And then they're doing, like you said, they had this DNA they were going to do, they had all this stuff they're working on, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, we're just going to take the Alford plea. Like, was your other shit that you were just saying wasn't going anywhere, and you knew that, and that's
nowhere.
Yeah, like, did you put that out there to make it sound like, oh, we definitely got this, and like, oh, shit's not working out, so they'll just take the Alford plea? Like, so they really still admitted to doing it. And they probably, I just felt like it was just way too weird, like very like magical, like sleight of hand almost. Think this and look at this,
right?
And we're gonna end
right.
with this,
right? Right. It's absolutely very magical. And the New Yorker, is a magazine that prides itself on accuracy, not ever getting a comma wrong. When the piece came out after they took the Alford plea and were released, the piece that the New Yorker wrote was that they were released they were exonerated because of DNA evidence. That DNA evidence had nothing to do with the fact that we were released. It was guilt. It was a DA that wanted to advance his own career and thought that it was a popular position. The films had made it popular that the West Memphis Three were innocent, and that he would go on to greater pastures because of this. But it really didn't do much for him. It was except release 3 guilty child killers.
Do you think even the judge signing off on that? I mean, you even find that like
very weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird. It's very sad. But if you have both sides and they want to do something, that's just what I was talking about with the non-Syed thing, which is so disgusting, and talk about magical and creepy. I'm not sure if it is magical. It's just very creepy what they're doing, which is they're putting in they're funding an ideological side is funding all these very woke prosecutors that are really like defense attorneys. They have a history of being defense attorneys, so that there is no opposition, so that when someone wants to get out, the DA will join in with the defendant and help get them out. Like in Baltimore, Adnan Syed is the 31st life without parole convict that they've released in 2 years. 31. And I'm sure every case is just as ridiculous as Adnan Syed. So that will give you some idea. So in Arkansas, the best that they could do, it's a little bit more conservative. You're not going to get that kind of really super woke DA that you could get maybe now. I don't know, but I don't think so. But I mean, the best that they could do was an Alford plea with the amount of money that they had. But it is very weird that the judge didn't say, well, what has changed in this case? What are you basing this on? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why now? What has changed?
What changes
because the one judge, Barnett, saw it through every step of the way and upheld that conviction for
the judge changed.
Years.
That's what changed.
Yeah, that's right.
Why they went for it, probably.
Do you know how much money was raised for all of this?
It's between 10 and 20 million dollars.
I'm sure some wheels.
And I think it may be more. The West Memphis 3 supporters have never disputed that figure. 10 to 20 million dollars.
You know what I should have done? I should have looked up the name of it and before the show. And if you go onto GuideStar, it's a free site. You have to make an account though to use it. You can look up any foundations, charities, and any non-for-profit places or any places that claim religious exemption. You can actually go in there, type in the companies, and you are allowed to look at how much money they have raised and how much they have spent. So that's something I might have to look at after the show, how much money they raised. Because I was even like thinking, I mean, no lie, for real, when that dude got out and I was following him on Instagram, I was like, yo, this fucking guy is living in a place that's more expensive than where I am. And he just got out of fucking jail.
Oh, yeah. I
was like, this dude's living in like, I mean, I think
he was living downtown by the Strand, wasn't he?
He was living in Peter Jackson's place.
That's
director.
Right. That's right.
Why would Peter Jackson give him his place? That's what
Peter
I'm saying.
Jackson, and if you look at Peter Jackson's film Heavenly Creatures, which is based on a true story of two young female killers who killed their mother in New Zealand. Look at how deferential and how they're the heroes. The killers are the heroes of that film. I love Heavenly Creatures. It's a great movie, but it's very disturbing when you look at it in retrospect to how he produced the 4th West Memphis 3 documentary. He supported Damien Echols. He gave him his home. There's a rumor that he put him in as an extra in one of his films. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe. It's just wild. I mean, you can see them, the way that these people get around these killers, not just Damien Echols, the supporters, they are just in ecstasy around. It's like a guru devotee relationship. It's very odd.
It makes me feel weird that he made Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's the same dude. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Because when you said the name, I was like, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be honest with you, and this isn't like jealousy or anything, because I mean, I have tattoos and I'd like another one. But I'm going to be honest, just from the amount of artwork I've seen done on him since he got out, I was like, that's not fucking cheap. Like, this guy has to be doing okay to be getting all this fucking work done now. I mean, I know he had done some in jail, but like, if you see how much he got done afterwards, unless that shit was free because these people are fans, that's thousands of dollars on his skin. I'm like, moves into a nice place, fucking thousands of dollars.
He's never worked a day in his life. I mean, doing anything seriously. He's only taught magic, done Reiki on people.
Oh, I saw
he's never had to work, not once.
I guess profits from his book, maybe.
Profits from his book, his wife. He's just, and he didn't work before he got convicted of killing 3 8-year-old boys. He never really worked much before that either. He was on full-time disability for his mental illness. And what's scary is there's 500 pages. It's called Exhibit 500 that was put together by his defense team. Now, he says in his book that it was put together, every lie was put together by the prosecution. Why? I don't know. But it was in reality compiled by his own defense team to say that he was too crazy to kill, meaning spare him the death penalty. Look at his mental health history. It's 500 pages of really scary mental health history.
I wonder with all sorry, go ahead, Roberta.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I wonder, with all the dark magic stuff that he was into from so young, that even he would have a demonic attachment that influences him to do these things or say certain things or teach magic or, this kind of thing. I would wonder that.
He's claimed that. He's claimed that he was visited by a demonic entity named Rosie who would take him on night rides when he was in jail.
That was one of Crowley's ex-wife's names.
There you go. I'm sure that's the reference.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure it is. I'm sure that is. Yeah.
Other big fans of Crowley were the Beatles and stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is what I mean. I think there's a Hollywood fascination. Some people would even say Jay-Z and Beyonce are Thelemites over anything else.
Yeah.
That's what That's what they practice. So it's almost like they have to protect their own. That's what I feel is going on.
I think when it comes to music and media, and I'm not saying it because I'm an ex-OTO member and I want to like brag or anything, but I really, unfortunately, do think thelemic magic is huge in music and movies. It's a huge influence, I think. So.
Well, it looks like there. I mean, you look at the kind of dark imagery that in music videos. It's like, why is that fashionable? Why not something else? You know,
right?
Yeah, they use all those outlandish colors because they fit on. When you start looking at colors and what they represent with the Kabbalah, you can start seeing a story just in their outfit, going by certain colors sometimes, and all the symbols in the music video. It could be as simple as that, and people won't even notice it. I've even covered that with Lil Nas X. Besides that weird video he had, there's other videos where like the colors that he's using or what he's wearing with what's behind him can all tell a story on the Tree of Life.
Yeah, why? I mean, why was he? Why did he become famous, Lil Nas X? You know what I mean? Why was he pushed? Why?
Why do any of them become famous?
Right.
Good question.
Yeah. He particularly, just the way he came on the scene with his kind of like, it was very, just the way he came on the scene with his, he's like, I made this at home and look at this amazing thing. He did this, he made this music at home and now they haven't stopped pushing his music since.
That's it.
Right.
They get initiated and then they continue the agendas as told or inspired.
Yes. Just like Eric just said, to push an agenda. That's why
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I wonder if Zachary King knows Damien Echols and why.
Oh, man. Should
ask him.
He seems to have no friends, Damien Echols. You know what I mean? Like in real life. You know what I'm saying? That he can hold on to for any consistent time. And I would think that it would have to do with his intense selfishness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not the fact that he's a psychopath, but that I think he's a psychopath. But besides that, his selfishness may be the bigger problem.
Was there any other stuff that you've seen like him contradict himself on, like even since he's gotten out?
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's go through it. Yeah, let's get really into it. First, he said his teeth. He was given a welcome to the jail party, and his teeth were messed up, and that he had to use meditation to deal with the pain in his teeth. Now, granted, and the interviewer says, "Well, your teeth look pretty good now," and he's like, "Yeah, that's because I didn't want to have them pulled. On death row, all they do is just pull your teeth out, and I didn't want to live without teeth," which is interesting. Did you always know that you'd get out, Damien Echols? I mean, if you really were going to get executed, why does it even matter? But okay. I understand. I wouldn't even think that nobody would want to live in maybe even the last 5 years of your life on death row with no teeth. Fine. But maybe they're in the back of his mouth that they were cracked or whatever. But his teeth looked pretty good. They looked like they were getting regular dental health in prison. So that was one. Another lie. He said, I went out to a comedy show. And it was I thought I was at this comedy show enjoying myself. And I thought to myself, this is the first time where I don't have to worry about being knifed. Someone shanking me from behind. This guy was in a prison cell alone.
That's as soon as you said we had to worry about
no one
I'm like, from who?
From whom? And I guess you could say, what are the prison guards shanking you now too? I mean, there is just no signs of any of these kinds of injuries, complaints about the guard, nothing. There's just nothing to back up any of his stories. They're just so outrageous.
I mean, I can tell you, I'll be honest, and I've said it on my show before, I did 2 years in prison. I did it in the past. I sold steroids, whatever, online. It became a federal crime. I used the mail. I mean, I'll let you know right now, while I was in there, I got free teeth cleaning.
There you go. Right.
I
welcome to the neighborhood party.
I heard they offered free teeth cleaning. I filled out a slip, and about 2 months later, I got free teeth cleaning. The only thing I will say that sucks is that you are not getting anesthesia. So, or any painkillers. So I'm assuming, I mean, I don't know, maybe if they start pulling teeth, they might, but I know they are not going to give you anything for pain in there unless it's serious. But they do offer, I mean, they do have a dentist in jail.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you get
Of
less.
course, it would be
it takes
cruel and
longer.
unusual punishment not to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if maybe it takes longer to see a dentist if you're in solitary confinement, but I mean, I know from experience. I mean, people were just doing it. People would go to the dentist just to waste the state's money. I mean, the feds' money.
Right.
They would make a dentist appointments just to go to waste fucking time and money.
We've had people on death row go to cancer treatment from death row, and people we have been saying, "Oh yeah, why are we treating them for this illness when we're just going to kill them?" But we do. We treat because it would be cruel, unusual not to treat them for their illnesses on death row, even on death row. So that's the system we have.
Well, what other?
Does anyone have any? I mean, I feel like I'm forgetting. Does anybody have forgetting some of them? I mean, there's so many. Oh God bless. I think there's like a bunch of videos that people have made of some of his lies. There's his teeth. There's the lie about the thing. Oh, he says he never knew Jesse Miss Kelly, that they weren't friends. That he barely knew Jesse Miss Kelly. That's untrue. Oh.
Yeah, like all three of them are like boys. Kind of, right? And they'll like hang out.
Jerry Driver, he lies about Jerry Driver, saying that Jerry Driver was asking young boys to give him blowjobs. I'm sorry, maybe that's not kosher, but whatever. That's totally untrue. I mean, basically, according to Damien Echols, he's the most persecuted. Everyone wants to frame a murder on this kid because he wears a black T-shirt and likes heavy metal music. That's outrageous. And people buy that.
Why was he the one out of all three to be like, oh, I'm the one being persecuted for something I didn't do? Like, I mean, like, how come the other three weren't going on? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the other two. It just seems like, how did he become the face of like?
Right. It's because he went to death row. Okay. That's one aspect of it. You could say the other, it's not my field. I don't know a lot about magical stuff. I listen with an open mind, obviously, but I don't know a lot about it. But you could say that he got death row and he activated all the people who were anti-death penalty people. So they're going to, of course, try to overturn any death penalty conviction. There will be anti-death penalty activists will come out, and there was one guy, Brandon Bernard, who had, with a bunch of other people, kidnapped this couple and driven them around and lit them on fire. And Kim Kardashian was trying to save this guy who lit a couple on fire.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
Right. So there is no person that Lisa Montgomery, there's another one who cut a baby out of another baby's womb, killed her for her baby and kidnapped the baby, like cut it out of her womb, killed the woman,
I remember
stole
that,
the baby. Yeah. She was just recently executed, but they tried to stop that execution, and they have no trouble advocating for these people. So the most heinous cases.
Good thing. It's a good thing Johnny Depp and Henry Rollins wasn't around for John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, the relation, right. That John Wayne Gacy is the creepiest. His connections, political connections. I mean, that is a creepy story. No doubt.
Yeah. No, but I was just thinking, like, he was on death row, and you saw like not too many. I don't think was anybody really fighting for him.
No, but there wasn't the money, and I mean the money in this movement is just gets crazier every year.
That's why I had mentioned before, if you knew how much they raised, because I mean, I hate to say it, but when you got that much money, I mean,
$20 million,
greasing some wheels. Like, yeah, we need this money because we got to pay people off to say, take the alpha. Like,
Lonnie Surrey, who's their PR agent, is the same agent, PR agent for Marty Tankleff. And if you go online and look up falseconfession.com, Lonnie Surrey runs that. Probably like he runs like 50 websites that are all connected to the subject of wrongful convictions, quote unquote wrongful convictions. I would call it innocence fraud, but so things like the idea of false confessions and blah blah blah, all the propaganda. But yeah, so he ran Marty Tankleff's very successful campaign. And these PR campaigns work.
Would you know the day of the killings, actually?
Yeah, May 5th, 1993.
5th. I was just wondering that. Because I even find... Wednesday is the day of magic, too.
Why is that?
It's associated with Mercury for Wednesday, and Mercury and like the gods associated with Mercury, like Thoth would be one. He's very much known for like magic. Like he even when Isis went and brought Osiris back, it was Thoth that wrote the magic spell for Osiris to bring him back. So like he is known for magic. Yeah, the reason I was checking is because I just remembered that, the 3 kids makes me think of the Supernal Triad, which is the top of the tree that's associated with the abyss. And the moon card does have, depending on what moon card you have, I have the Golden Dawn moon card. It will show a pillar and like a stream running up the middle of the pillars. So I was just wondering if maybe that day somehow, if I was...
thought it might have been a full moon or a new moon. I can't remember which, but check it out. This is not my aspect of this case. It's not my specialty. I keep saying that, but it's really not. So please forgive me for not knowing a lot about the magical aspects of this.
It was a full flower moon.
Oh, is that what it was? It was a full.
Yes.
What does that mean, full flower moon?
I don't know. I tell you the truth, I've never heard of a flower moon. I probably should. I don't know. I just think that's interesting. Blooming like a flower, or young children. I don't know.
It's weird. 5'5".
I was wondering. It'd probably take me too long to start messing around with it, but I was going to start crunching the numbers and see if like what tarot card it might fall on. But no, I even find I think that's interesting. Even like you said, the year is 93. The day it happened, the day of magic. Very interesting.
Oh, you know what? Also, I just want to one other thing that Echols lies about. He says, well, of course, that the state offered him the Alford plea, not that his defense team went, which is what really happened. The state had to because they were so embarrassed having these innocent people in prison.
What happened to the other 2 perpetrators, I guess?
They, Miss Kelly is went back home to West Memphis and is living in a trailer park where he came from. And Baldwin is homeless, living out of his van, as last I heard. Wow. And not doing too well. I mean, he had a charity, but I mean, I don't think Echols had to move out of New York. I don't think any of them are doing too well, which is interesting that now that they want to test the DNA by MVAC technology, they're pushing to, but they're asking in the wrong jurisdiction. I mean, they're doing all these things to get rejected. I mean, you know why we say you get out on a technicality? Because people can, because the law is designed that way. It's rules, but they've decided that they can flagrantly ignore all the rules, and then they're wondering why things aren't going their way.
Yeah,
like applying for this DNA testing after the fact, after they've already signed saying that they won't challenge this conviction and blah blah blah. There's lots of problems with it, but I think that they should release the DNA results from 2011 before they even test anything else. Don't you think that's the logical thing to do?
Yeah.
You'd think.
Right. Thank you. Right. But logic doesn't come into play. It's so funny, just really quickly. I just got a direct message on Twitter from a stranger about another case. And he was saying, you talk about alibis like everyone has them. Don't you know that that most innocent people don't have alibis? So now not having an alibi is a sign of
being
talking about opposite world. It's like, thank you for schooling me.
A Democrat came up with that somehow.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Political stuff.
Definitely.
Interesting too. The day of the murders, it was in the zodiac of Taurus, which is an earthly zodiac. So I mean, I'm wondering if even the X goes back to that again.
I mean, I think
X's on people.
I mean, I think part of this was a thrill kill, But
Yeah.
this was also a group of kids, if you believe Jesse Miss Kelly's many confessions, that this was also a group that Damien Echols was leading that was doing magic in this area. So take that.
Oh, another
They got drunk and
quick
hung
question.
out and stealing people's dogs and eating dogs and God knows what else. If that happened, that's what Miss Kelly says.
These kids now, didn't they also have like their junk kind of removed?
One
or cut
did.
out?
One did, and that Baldwin did that. Yeah, he like skinned the penis, and Baldwin told Michael Carlson that he put the balls in his mouth, yeah,
all right.
and sucked the blood out of the head of the penis. So.
Oh, Jesus, fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
I do know.
very disturbing. The kids are begging them, no, stop. I want to go home. And one almost got away, and Miss Kelly ran after him, and you can see. So the story, how the bodies were found, one was found a little further away from the other two, and that was probably from that. So the actual physical evidence supports some of Miss Kelly's confession.
Yeah, I was wondering if that has anything like there's like stuff sometimes you'll see in magic, and I do think this is even part of magic. You will put out stuff like real stuff about magic, but the way you will hand it to the public, they will misunderstand it and take it the wrong way. I think that's even going on with a lot of the sexual agenda, the non-binary stuff, or the whole trans movement, is because like in magic, if you were to cross the abyss, you technically, if your soul is leaving your body, you do become sexless in a way that they look at it, because you are now in spirit. You're not physical body. There is no sex in spirit. So again, I was wondering if the removing of the genital area and being found in water is just going along with that more. The fact of not having any sex now, so we're not being a sexual being. And
yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's very disturbed. They were very drunk, all three of them, on beer, and Miss Kelly was drinking whiskey, and his own lawyers wouldn't believe him. And he said, well, you don't believe me? I smashed this Evan Williams whiskey bottle below this bridge. You'll see it, the hair. And the lawyers went to look for it, and they found it. So, but I think they still wouldn't believe it. It's really interesting, the ability, a human's ability to repress reality and believe what they want to believe is amazing. So even with the whiskey bottle being there, I think they still went on believing that this was the three defendants were innocent.
I even think, the guy's a magician. If you're still a practicing magician, and if you're not a good person, you're going to learn how to wear masks, and you will, in my opinion, you could easily lie so well that you almost believe yourself, so then everybody else will believe you, because you're just playing it off so good.
He does. I think he's a very good liar. And one of the things that they've succeeded in doing is making the grieving stepfathers now the victimizers when they're the victims, and they make themselves the victims. So you can see it in the kind of Darvo deny reverse offender attack, that kind of thing, or you can see it as kind of a magical opposite world. So they took something, they took a punishment for just punishment and reversed it and made it and made it that the injustice was that they were ever convicted. It's crazy. Everything. That's the one aspect of it that I relate to, is this kind of reversal. Well, everything in this case is reversed.
That's what evil does. It perverts and inverts. So.
Oh, so magic does too. It's an inversion of itself.
Wow.
So yeah. I guess we'll leave it there if you don't mind. It was a little bit over an hour. Roberta, I thank you so. And I didn't have you plug your stuff in the beginning. All your stuff already, your show notes are on the bottom. But would you like to let everybody know where they can find your stuff?
At Roberta Glass Pod on Twitter. Roberta Glass True Crime Report on Facebook. Come join the discussion in there. I'm on YouTube. I'm on every podcast platform you can think of. Check me out. Thank you for having me. I always love talking to you guys. It's always
it's always a good time having you on. Yeah, all your notes are in the bottom. I highly suggest go check out his stuff, especially all the. I mean, I think when I first came across you was on William Ramsey, and I think I just typed in William Ramsey and Roberta Glass, and there was a bunch of stuff. And I listened to it, and then I was like, yo, I hit up Ramsey. I was like, you think you can get her on my show? So definitely go check out the work that she's done with Ramsey. I think is great. Go check her stuff out. And Teresa, would you like to plug our other show?
Sure. So the other show we have together, it's called The Spiritual Gangsters, and you can find it here on YouTube, all the podcast spots. And yeah, it's about like people's more personal transformations and struggles and things they've come through. So it's a nice break from murder and
murder and occult and magic. Yeah,
sometimes that does come into play, but not usually. But yeah, it's good. It's a good time.
All right.
Yeah. And what I like about it is that people haven't heard of it yet. What I like about it is that we do get a lot of podcasts on there, and it's a good way to get an idea of who you're actually listening to. It's a lot more personable, and I think it's pretty cool. So definitely check that out if you haven't. The links are on the bottom for that. It's even in my own link tree. I do have links for the Spiritual Gangsters as well as Teresa's link. And like I said before, Roberta's, all her links are in the bottom. Definitely go check out all her amazing work. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in on the chat. Thank you, Indigo, Helen, Eric, Arnold, all the, you all know who you are. Thank you again for joining in on the chat. That is why I do it. And then till the next one, everybody be well. Later.